Chess YouTube, do you want to see Gukesh D disembowel Magnus Carlsen starting with an insane rook sack? Of course you do. All right, in the game, Gukesh D playing as white opens 1e4. And by the way, this game took place in the 2022 Airthings Master Tournament. I went all the way back into the archives just to find this insane game for you guys. Now here, Magnus playing as black. He plays on move 1, the French defense with the move e6. A very rare guess at the highest levels, but I guess Magnus here in the game trying to throw off the future world champion. All right, Gukesh, d4, d5, standard stuff. White takes control of the center of the board. And now knight to c3 is the move for Gukesh. The standard move here, defending e4, probably the strongest way to combat the French defense. And black here has a wide variety of ideas. There is the Winawer variation with bishop b4. There is the Rubinstein with d takes e4. And finally, there is the classical with the move knight to f6. And in recent years, the classical with knight f6 has emerged as the main line for black. The Winawer these days is just too dangerous according to Stockfish. So instead, the classical knight f6, black here pressuring e4, threatening to capture on e4 with the pawn or the knight winning a pawn at least temporarily. In response, Gukesh plays the strongest move, that is simply e5, gaining space in the center, driving back that knight on f6. And from here, pretty much the only good move for black is going to be knight fd7. Of course, the squares g4 and h5 are covered by the queen, and g8 is just not a fun move to make. You don't really want to go right back to the starting square from where you began. So instead, knight fd7 chosen in the game, and from here, it's a typical French defense game. White has the strong pawns on d4 and e5, black the pawns on the e6 and the d5 squares. That means most likely white is going to try and go for a plan involving f4, maybe kingside castling, maybe queenside castling, and later in the game, pushing through f5, trying to attack on the king side. More on that later. Black, on the other hand, is going to have to get his counterplay starting on the queen side with the move c5, threatening c6, d4, pressuring d4, and so on. And maybe later he might go f6, but that isn't really required. Black most likely will get most of his counterplay on the queen side here. All right, Gukesh continues, f4. By the way, in the World Championship match versus Ding Liren, when Ding Liren played the French defense twice in that match, Gukesh went for the move knight c to e2. It is sort of a, interesting sideline, but by far the main line here for white, the strongest move, according to Stockfish, is the move f4, and that was played in the game by Gukesh. Now, Magnus, c5. Counterattacking on the queen side, pressuring d4, very standard stuff in the French defense and in this pawn structure in general right here. Now, Gukesh, knight f3, knight c6, and then bishop e3, supporting d4, threatening actually in some lines taking on c5 with the pawn, but for right now, it's not that big of a threat. Now, this is the real starting point of this entire line for white and for black. Black here has a wide variety of ideas. You can take on d4, you can go bishop e7, queen to b6, queen to a5, a6 intending b5, and if you're Arjun Erigaisi, you can even go h6 intending a fast g5, but only if you are Arjun. If you're anyone else, don't even think about that, but if you're Arjun, it's okay, you can make it work. Now, which plan does Magnus go for? He plays the move a6 here. A very strong idea, threatening b5, and black's idea is to go b5, maybe queen to a5, maybe b4, and sort of just get some counterplay going on the queen side. And the reason this works so well here for black, in case you don't know, white, his strongest idea in general here is to go queen d2 and long castles. However, if black has all these pawns racing down the board on the queen side here, then the queen side will not be safe at all, and therefore, white's going to have to castle on the king side. But overall, castling kingside is not as dangerous as of a plan in general. So Magnus here sort of like playing with Gukesh. So let's see how Gukesh responds in the game. From here, Gukesh D, he plays queen d2 and Magnus b5, no surprise there. And now white's got some ideas. You can go, for example, bishop to d3 or e2. You can still long castle. The strongest move here, according to the engine, as usual in modern chess, is going to be the move h4, intending h5, h6. Kind of a crazy idea, but it does work out quite well here. And Hans Niemann himself, the bad boy of chess, he recently played a game as white in this line with h4 versus, I believe, Levon Aronian in a recent tournament. Now, instead, here in the game, Gukesh in 2022, he takes on c5. D takes c5. Now, in the game, Gukesh he's sort of bailing out for kind of an equalish middle game. Again, h4 is the strong idea. You can also castle kingside, but taking on c5 is sort of a cop-out. He's sort of like bailing out to an equal game, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. He's perhaps caught off guard by black in this game, but let's see how the game goes. Of course, in the end, Gukesh will be disemboweling Magnus Carlsen in this game. Now, from here, bishop takes c5 is the move. Then we take on c5 again. Bishop takes, and then knight takes c5. Now here, bishop d3. Of course, Gukesh, he's giving black the option of capturing on d3 if he wants to. However, if black does that, white simply takes back on d3 with the c-pawn, and believe it or not, that pawn on d3, it guards a lot of very important squares, and that would be perfectly fine for Gukesh. No problems at all, especially considering black would be stuck with the very bad bishop on c8. Again, that is the worst piece for black in the French defense right now. It is truly a bad bishop, hitting the pawns on the queen side and in the center. It really can't go anywhere or do anything yet. Now here, Magnus, as usual, he finds the best move that is simply queen to b6. Now, what is the tactical idea behind this move? It's very simple. Gukesh here, he would love the castle kingside. However, if you do that, the king slides right into the scope of the queen, and the move knight takes d3 comes with check, and therefore black would win a piece, that being the bishop, as later the knight could run away. So, Gukesh here, again, being a future world champion, he finds a solid idea. Queen to f2. He slides the queen over. He actually pins the knight to some degree. If the knight were to go to, say, I don't know, b7, you lose the queen. So Magnus here, he's not doing knight b7. Don't worry. No worries there. But the idea is now white can castle kingside, whereas if black takes on d3, it doesn't hit with check. And white can take back or win the queen, and white is simply winning there. So instead, Magnus finds, again, the best idea, b4. Now, what is the idea behind this? Well, first of all, there's a simple idea of gaining space on the queen side, driving back the knight to a weaker square, and so on. But there is a deeper strategic idea associated with this move right here. The knight, it goes back to e2, and then black goes a5. Okay, we're starting to see the idea. Black freeing up a6 as well as this diagonal for the light square bishop. If he can get rid of this piece right here, he will have zero issues in this game at all. And in fact, he might even be a little bit better. Now here, Gukesh, castles kingside, the right idea. Again, don't castle queenside here. You would literally lose the queen on f2 after knight takes, check, c takes, and then queen takes f2. Instead, short castles is the move. Gukesh playing a very solid game so far, maintaining good control of d4. That is by far, the most important square in most French defense positions. So white maintaining good control, but black here, he's got quite a bit of counterplay, and he finally plays the move bishop to a6. So from here, if white just kind of waits around and doesn't do a whole lot, black is going to get a fantastic game. He might even be a little bit better thanks to his very good counterplay on the queen side. So Gukesh here, he's got to find something to do. Like, you can't sit around and wait forever in chess. At some point, you do have to attack to try and win the game. So how is Gukesh going to do it? Well, the future world champion finds the strongest idea here, and he lights the board on fire with the move f5. Here we go. Everything, and I mean everything, has led up to this moment right here. The pawn on the f5 square, threatening to blast open the f-file. Gukesh lighting the board on fire. And from here, of course, the idea might be knight to f4, threatening the pawn on the e6 square. So white's got a lot of ideas, opening the f-file, taking on e6, knight f4 ideas, queen g3 ideas, and so on. Everything is coming together. Now black, how does he defend? Well, Magnus, as usual, finds the best idea. That involves taking on the f5 square. E takes f5. Now, why is this move so good? It's simple. The other obvious idea might be castling. However, that would be a huge mistake. And I do want to show you this one line to show you how difficult this position is and how careful black has to be. If you castle, the idea for white is knight f4, gaining even more space, closing in on the enemy king. And if black takes here, instead of the prior move, then the move is e6, blowing open the entire king side. And insanely enough, if black takes, you take the pawn as the knight on c5 is pinned, and you lose the knight. That's how dangerous this entire game is for black right here. So Magnus in the game finding the best move, taking on f5. E takes f5. So far, so good. Now, knight f4, threatening e6 ideas. Of course, if black castles, e6 comes all the same, and it's the same tactic we just saw in the prior line. So black here, he's got to defend. He can't castle. Instead, the move here is knight to e7, trying to defend, guarding d5, guarding f5. Overall, a good defensive move. However, Gukesh, he's not slowing down. Even though the queen controls e6, even though everything is defended, Gukesh, he goes e6, attacking into the black position. Now, there's a rule in chess. It's one of my favorite rules in all of chess. I learned it from Jacob Agard in one of his amazing attacking books. What was it called? Not How to Attack, but it was the Attacking Manual. Go look up Jacob Agard of qualitychess.co.uk. He's got some amazing attacking books. It's a 2-volume series. Read it a long time ago when I was back into chess growing up. But the idea is you attack into the strongest point in the enemy position, which sounds insane, but when it works, oh boy, does it work. The entire enemy position just collapses instantly when it works. Magnus, what can he do? If he takes here, you take with the knight anyway. It's completely insane. The point being, if black takes, you can take. The rook comes to the e1 square, hitting the queen, the pin on the king. Everything just goes insane instantly. So instead, black here, he plays the move f6. Ben Feingold rolling in his grave. He's still alive, but rolling in his grave. Ben Feingold, not a fan of this move at all, but it works out here. Now, Gukesh, he's got to find the right follow-up. Here, he plays the move Rook A to C1, and this turns out to be a substantial mistake in this game. Gukesh playing phenomenal chess so far, simply phenomenal, but he finds the wrong square for the rook. So, in chess, in general, when the opponent is not attacking you, you want to either attack or develop/improve the placement of your pieces. Right here, Gukesh, he doesn't have a good way to continue the attack. Therefore, he must develop, and the best thing you can do is bring out this rook on the a1 square into the game. Now here, Stockfish loves the idea of rook a d1, pressuring d5 in some lines. Instead, rook a c1 chosen in the game, and this turns out to be substantially weaker. Gukesh, the idea is c3, but this is not the right strategy. All right, black castles, then c3, but Magnus, he's on top of things. Queen d6, he slides over, guards the knight, attacks this knight, guard d6. The queen is just perfectly placed here. Magnus showing his class, showing why he's truly the GOAT of chess. Now here, Gukesh, he takes on a6, the right idea. Bishop takes a6. If you don't, the bishop on d3 is effectively hanging, and you will run into massive, and I mean massive problems. By the way, the only reason black couldn't take the bishop here is the knight is pinned to the queen. If you take it with the knight, you lose. If you take it with the bishop, white takes back. And again, that knight on c5 is under a tremendous amount of pressure, and black would lose the knight. Therefore, Magnus, queen d6, sliding over, getting out of the pin, pressuring f4, a brilliant multi-purpose move. Maybe not brilliant, but a really solid, good move. Here, Gukesh, the only thing he can do is take on a6, but black is ready. Rook takes a6, the rook lift on the 6th rank. Gukesh, he takes on b4, but Magnus Carlsen is ready. He jumps in with the knight to the e4 square, temporarily ignoring the pawn on b4. What is the idea? It's so simple. Of course, if you take back with the a pawn, the knight on c5 falls. Instead, knight e4 hits the queen with tempo, and then black wins back the pawn on the b5 square. Here, queen to e3 is the move, getting out of the attack of the knight. Then a takes b4, then knight d4, jumping in with the knight. Here, black takes on a2. Rook takes a2. Gukesh is now down 2 pawns in the game. That being the pawn on the f5 square, and now the pawn on a2. But there's one thing I've learned about Indian players from playing online, and everyone who plays online knows this is true. Indian players, they fight until the bitter end. I've never met an Indian player quit prematurely. They go on until the very last move, until they are checkmated. They will do anything, and I mean anything, to swindle the win from you. And Magnus Carlsen, he knows this. He keeps fighting. Here, Gukesh, knight b5, attacks the queen. Queen to e5 is the move, getting out of the way of the attack. And on e5, the queen looks kind of strangely placed. It's almost trapped here. The queen only has a couple of decent squares it could go to if it needed to. So Kind of a weird move, but so far, so good. Magnus, he's still in control. He didn't have to do this. It could go to, say, a6 or b8. Those would have been much safer moves, because here, Gukesh, after queen to e5, he thinks for a little bit, and then he busts out the very strong, very logical, but insanely, what's the word for it? Like, it's got a hidden trap. The insanely trappy idea of rook to c7. Gukesh, what an obvious move at first glance. Flying in with the rook, attacking the knight. What could be more obvious than this? It's really hard to imagine a more obvious move here. However, there's one problem. Black here has only one move that saves the game. If he does not find this one move, Gukesh is going to steamroll the goat instantly, maybe even disembowel the goat. So, if you like puzzles, pause the video and try to find the one move right here that Gukesh D can play to save this game. It's really not so easy to find as black. All right, the move for black, it's knight g6. You simply have to get out of the attack of the rook. There's no other way. If you stay there with the knight, you are simply cooked. Instead, Magnus in the game, he plays the move, rook to e8. Now, this move right here is, I mean, it's just a blunder. There's no other way to put it. Magnus with one single move. Look at the eval bar. The difference in he's winning as black. One simple mistake and white is winning. And Gukesh, he finds the idea. He begins queen to b6. What is the threat? It's simple. It's rook takes, queen d8, rook e8, queen takes e8, checkmate, like this. If black wastes a move, let's say rook to a5, rook takes, queen d8, rook e8, queen takes e8 is checkmate. So black, what can black do to stop the impending checkmate? He does not go rook a4. Instead, in the game, he plays the move knight g5, trying to guard the king side, attacking e6 and so on. But Gukesh, he doesn't slow down. Rook takes e7, all the same. The attack continues. Black, what can he do? Again, if you capture the rook, either queen d8 would be basically checkmate on the spot. Black, what can he do? Rook e to a8 is the move in the game. But now, Gukesh, queen to c7, offering the queen trade, but also targeting the weak pawn on g7. Black here, if he trades queens, Gukesh will be up an entire knight in the endgame. He's got two knights versus the one. That would be game over on the spot. So Magnus here, he tries to fight on. Queen to e3 check, hits the king. But Gukesh, king to h1. And in this position, Magnus Carlsen, with no way to defend the g7 square and no way to stop checkmate, literally, there's nothing he can do. He simply has to resign on the spot to Gukesh D. Wow, what a game between Gukesh and Magnus Carlsen in the 2022 Airthings Masters Tournament. All right, Chess YouTube, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and smash that like button down below. Comment down below what you thought of the game. And as always, if you want to learn directly from me, feel free to join my free online chess community. I have free courses. I offer free coaching in some capacity in there. I'm helping a lot of people right now. So the link is school.com/chessmindset. If you want to reach 2,000 ELO as quickly as possible, I mean, I have some people gaining literally 200 ELO points in less than 2 weeks just from, short conversations with me where I upgrade their thinking process and show them how to actually think during a game, which for some reason so many players have not really learned how to do. So if you want to gain, like my student did, 200 ELO points in 200 days, the link is right there. Feel free to join. I will see you inside. And as always, I wish you the best of luck in your chess improvement journey in 2025 and beyond. And I'll see you in the next video.